tough to get this as a sanctioned event in the States, in Ohio, because it is such a dangerous and really aggressively violent sport. But it's also extremely entertaining. I don't know if any of you guys watch Moist Critical, the Twitch streamer and the YouTuber. He does commentary on this sort of event all the time, and I watch all those videos. I think this is extremely entertaining sport. And I think it's a cool addition to the Arnold. I mean, overall, the Arnold isn't just about bodybuilding. It's the Arnold Sports Festival. They have more sports and athletes than any other event in the world, and I think this is just another thing to make them stand out and make them more unique. And like I said, hopefully this event is a success so they can do more in the future, because I know it was hard to get the okay to actually do this at the Arnold. And I think, furthermore, it's going to be big to do this in conjunction with Logan Paul. I think Logan Paul is going to bring a lot of mainstream eyeballs to the wait for this. I think it's going to be great. Now, next up in the news, this is a pretty interesting story here. A new bodybuilding category added to the IFBB Mexico competitions and organization. This is going to be called the Fitness Fighters Division, according to the translation of this post from Veras Muscle News. So the translation of this post, which is images from one of these fitness fighter competitions or luchador competitions where they're wearing the wrestling mask, says IFBB Mexico has exceeded all limits. They created the fitness fighter category, and it's not just any fighter. It has to be from freestyle wrestling, so it has to be a luchador. That theater that makes the most success in the United States and is almost a religion in Mexico. So I think they're referring to like the WWE in the U.S. and just Lucha Libre in Mexico. In the end, I got it done. The rules are the competitors can have up to 15% body fat maximum. So much more lenient rules when it comes to how much body fat you can have or how lean you have to be. And they have to be actual fighters. And the category debut was a big success, believe. So I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this category. Personally, I don't think it's going to be something, obviously, that extends beyond the IFBB Mexico. I don't think this is something we're going to have here in the States or in the NPC or in the IFBB that we're familiar with here. Because culturally, this is much more culturally significant in Mexico to make it a reasonable addition to a bodybuilding show. So I don't think there's really anything to worry about as far as this, bleeding over into the States. But what do you guys think about this being a category in Mexico specifically? Is it a cool idea? Is it a bad idea? Is it a dangerous gray area that makes bodybuilding competitions look even more kind of like a freak show or like a circus attraction? Or is it a good idea in a sense that it might appeal to a broader audience, maybe the luchador, lucha libre audience, and maybe potentially get those people interested in bodybuilding and fitness and get those people competing themselves? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Now, next up in the news, we had some off-season physique updates from Shaun Clarida that he recently sent to his coach as check-ins, his coach Matt Jansen, where he looks bigger and fuller than I've ever seen him, at least. But just take that with a grain of salt because this is the off-season for Shaun. But I thought this would make an interesting segment in a video because we still have not yet had the question answered. Will Shaun Clarida do the 212 category at the 2022 Olympia, or will he do open bodybuilding? And even though these are off-season updates, the fact that he looks so much bigger than usual leads to a lot of speculation. Maybe he is going to try to size up a little bit to get into open. Because right now, the understanding that we have is that he is going to have to pick one category. It has to be one or the other 212 or open. And we do know that he has not made the decision yet. So I guess I've got a couple of questions for you guys. A, which division do you think he should do, open or 212? And B, do you think he even needs to put on size to be competitive in open? Or should he just focus on coming in as peeled as possible? And if he does that, maybe he's going to catch a lot of open guys that aren't nearly as peeled as him, which I think is what happened when he won that Legion Sports Festival, which was the open class competition that he won to qualify for the 2022 Olympia. And of course, he qualified for life for 212's Olympia by being a 212 Olympia champion himself. Personally, I don't think Shaun needs to put on any size to compete in men's open bodybuilding. I don't want to see him try to play the size game. And the reason for that is this. He's got such a small, compact frame that he's going to run the risk of looking blocky and stocky and losing some of the aesthetics and the lines that he has if he does try to play a size game. And he also might sacrifice some conditioning. And I really think that gnarly, crazy conditioning that he brings is what would make him a threat in men's open bodybuilding, because that's something that we don't see as often in men's open bodybuilding as we see in a division like 212. And that could be because of the weight restriction in 212. But I think that conditioning is Shaun's most dangerous attribute, and I don't want to see him sacrifice one bit of that. I want to see, if he does do men's open, I want to see him as peeled as he possibly can be. You know, if he's 212 or less, that's great. Whatever his weight is, that's great. I think he can catch a lot of guys in men's open bodybuilding and place higher than them by being more conditioned. For his size and his frame, I think he's got plenty of muscle. He's a very small guy, so just because he weighs so light does not mean that his frame is not filled out proportionally. It does not mean that he's not very symmetrical. It does not mean that he has a lot of muscle for his size. And that's kind of been the big controversial talking point about Shaun Clarida winning that Legion Sports Festival and about Shaun Clarida competing in men's open bodybuilding is, shouldn't men's open bodybuilding be about the biggest, baddest bodybuilder, as big as you can possibly get, and not, a small guy that gets ripped? And my answer to that question, I think no. I think if a smaller guy with a smaller stature can get more ripped than a big, tall men's open 300-pounder, then he should win the show. If he's more complete, he's more shredded, has a better proportioned physique, even if the guy outweighs him by like 100 pounds like we saw at the Legion Sports Festival, I think the smaller guy should win. I don't think bodybuilding should always be about being the biggest mass monster, the biggest freak, the biggest guy should win. I don't think that's the case. And the final story that I have for you guys today, I wanted to throw in one more Arnold Classic update in this video here of Steve Kuclo. Steve was third place at last year's Arnold Classic. In my opinion, I think he was almost second. Extremely, extremely close between him and Ian. I think you could have made an argument for Steve Kuclo, certainly in second. Neither of the two guys that beat Steve last year, Ian Valliere or Nick, will be competing this year at the Arnold. So I think there's a solid argument to make for Steve possibly being top 3 again this year. But in my predictions, I've got Steve in fourth behind Justin Rodriguez, who I think looks better than ever this year. But I think Steve still has a shot at cracking the top 3 again this year, depending on how these guys really end up coming in. This update, I think, is a perfect example. We talk about gnarly conditioning. We talk about vascularity like we saw from Justin. Steve has that too. Steve is a huge bodybuilder that competes in the upper 200s, and he almost always comes in really good shape lately. But let me know where you guys are predicting Steve is going to place in the comment section down below. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet already. Click the bell notification icon. Again, make sure you like the video. As always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out.